Hey guys, this is Adam, and did you know that in Azure, there's a service that allows you to explore costs for your subscription, resource groups, and specific resources, and the best of it, it's free of charge. This is Introduction to Azure Cost Management Service. Stay tuned. Azure Cost Management is a centralized service and a solution in Azure that allows you to control and monitor costs of your Azure resources. And it does that through several features like cost analysis, alerts and budgets, offline exports like you can automate export or you can access data directly through REST API. Additionally, you can connect with out-of-the-box connector from Power BI and Power BI applications if you want to do self-service analytics on the cost of your Azure subscriptions. So when it comes to cost analysis, first of all, there's a billing account support. Billing account, currently there are three types. Either you have Microsoft Online Services Program, Enterprise Agreement, or Microsoft Customer Agreement. If you're just starting with Azure, you most likely have the first option. So it's pay-as-you-go accounts, free Azure accounts, or Visual Studio subscription for learning purposes. If you're a big company, you either have Enterprise Agreement or Microsoft Customer Agreement. And when it comes to analysis of the cost for your Azure subscription, depending on the billing account that you have different scopes. A scope is a unit that allows you to group the costs. And if you have Microsoft Online Services Program, two scopes that you have out of the box are billing account and subscription scopes. So you can review all the costs for entire billing account or on a specific subscription. And when it comes to scopes in subscriptions, you can use resource management scopes, so you can review the costs on management groups, subscriptions, or even resource groups, which is pretty cool because it allows you to do this drill down analysis to find the specific resources that drives your costs and allows you to optimize your subscriptions to be as cost effective as possible. But additionally, thanks to those scopes, you can actually assign access to someone to a specific subscription, management group, or even resource group. So that, for instance, department owners or owners of the application can analyze the cost themselves and find the most costly services and try to optimize it themselves, which allows you to scale much better than if a single person would be doing this job. When it comes to management groups, remember that they can be nested, which allows you to represent your organization as management groups, apply some additional policies, but also track costs in management groups. Which of course, in a single management group, you can contain multiple subscriptions, and each subscription can contain multiple resource groups. And additionally, you have multiple views. So you have views for accumulated cost, actuals, forecasting even. You have some granularities, pivots, and tables. So you've got quite a lot of views out of the box for you to do basic analysis. Remember that Azure Cost Management is not a BI tool, so it doesn't have all the fancy features of Power BI. That's why we have Power BI. But in here, you have the most commonly used features that you would need to perform the most basic drill down analysis. With that said, we can actually go into Azure Portal and explore this a little bit. Because Azure Cost Management is a centralized service, there are multiple ways to access it. One of these ways is menu on the left-hand side, where you have cost management and billing. You can also find it in a search bar by typing cost, which will bring out cost management and billing. This is pretty much the same option. But remember about the scopes. This is the centralized service, so even if you go to any kind of resource, for instance resource groups, and pick any kind of resource group, on the left hand side you will always find a cost analysis blade. In this cost analysis you can review the cost for this specific resource group. So you don't have to have access to the full subscription, you can review a specific resource group if you have specific access on that resource group that allows you to review the costs and billing information. If you go to subscriptions, for instance, by typing subs and selecting specific subscription, again, you're gonna find that panel of cost analysis. So it's pretty much anywhere in Azure Portal, you can get to the cost blade. So let's go to cost analysis service, the centralized one. And in here, first of all, you have some basic information about the current billing account, like who's the account admin, what's the billing start and end period, what's the currency, billing region, and what's this billing account type that I was talking about. As you see, I have Visual Studio subscription, which is Microsoft Online Services Program. Here you're gonna find a list of your subscription that you are owner of, and you can review some additional stuff like invoices if you have any, properties which contains your basic information, payment methods. If you have accounted credit cards here, you can find this credit card info here and you can modify it. And you have, of course, billing scopes. Inside of billing scopes, at the top level, you're gonna find my billing account. But if you're gonna click into it, you're gonna find yourself back to this overview panel. So what you can do here is either click on a subscription, and notice when you do that, it will bring you to the same panel that we were previously a moment ago, which is by going to subscription and selecting your subscription. Or what you can do is inside of the billing and cost management panel, you can hit cost management here. Please notice something interesting, because a moment ago we were in a cost analysis on a resource group level. Azure Portal remembered what is the current scope, which was the scope of that resource group that we were analyzing. So you can actually go here and select the scope that you want to perform the analysis on. For instance, you can go level up to your subscription, or you can go even higher level to management group. I created one management group for this demo purposes, which is one-to-one grouping with my subscription. And of course, right now I will be only doing analysis by this subscription. So I'm gonna select it. And right now I will be automatically moved to cost analysis when I can review the costs for my subscription for the current period. And after everything loads, notice a couple of stuff in here. The first chart, the most important chart, is accumulated cost. If you want to change this, you can change it from this view dropdown here. Other views that you have as built-in views are cost by resource, daily cost, cost by service, and invoice details if you want to review the invoice information from your previous and current periods. On this chart, you will see two colors, a dark green, which is accumulated cost up to today's date, which today is May 4th. If you see that washed out green color, that's the forecast. If you have at least 10 days of billing data, Microsoft will provide you in this panel the forecast for current usage. So based on my current usage for the last 10 days, Microsoft estimates that I'm gonna use 66 euros by the end of the current billing cycle. On the bottom, you have three panels showing you the cost by service name, location, and resource group name. Those costs show you the most expensive service name, locations, and resource groups in your Azure subscription in your current scope. Currently, we're reviewing subscription, but of course, you can always change the scope. If you want to change the scope, remember there's this button right here. You can, of course, change these panels as well. So if you don't want to review by location, maybe you want to review it by specific resource, just change this dropdown and you're gonna see the values of the most costly services. In my case, I can very quickly see it's a virtual machine called SQL Gateway that is consuming the most on my Azure subscription. And I quickly can navigate into that specific resource to find out why is that. Additionally, what you can do here is, for instance, you can apply groupings. Groupings is a fantastic way to change the default views. And when you can change it, you can also change the granularity from accumulated to, for instance, daily. Daily is pretty cool because it will allow you to see, are my costs growing day by day or not? Because it's very hard to see it with accumulated costs. As you see here, based on my last 10 days, my daily usage will be growing. But that, of course, is only forecast. So maybe I will actually change the default billing cycle. So you can actually change the period that you're looking at by either recommended or by invoices from the marketplace, relative dates, or maybe calendar month. So I can switch to last month to see the actual cost of my resources in a previous month on daily basis. And as you see, there was a big spike around 3rd, 4th of April. Right now, I don't really know how and what does it happen that actually caused this spike. So what you can additionally do, you can change this group by to, for instance, service. So let's change it to service name. And in a couple of seconds, you will see that during 4th of April, a new service appeared, which started generating costs, which is a virtual machine. You can, of course, either unfilter these charts if you want, but this is not very user-friendly way to do it. What you can actually do it better is you use filters here. On the top level, you have filter. You can select specific things that you want to filter from the chart. So in this case, I can use service name. And since I know that I want to drill down into virtual machines, let it load. Then I can select a filter and apply it. Right now, I'm gonna only see data for virtual machines for the period of April 2020, which allows me again to change the grouping. This time maybe I want to see a specific resource or resource group. In this case, I'm gonna select specific resource because I want to see if it's more virtual machines that were created that day or only one. And this diagram very clearly shows that most of the cost is generated by one VM, which is this blue coral and SQL Gateway VM. If I would want to act on this information right now, I could very easily go to Azure Resource Group that this is in, which I saw that it was in SQL Firewall demo. And in here I can find my SQL Gateway virtual machine, which I can go to activity log and simply change the time span to last month. This way I can review what happened to this virtual machine last month. And as you see, very easily I could find that around April 5th, a virtual machine was started by me. This is what was driving our costs. And if we go back to cost analysis, this is what we just basically seen. Let's go back to cost management, cost analysis, and we're back to where we began. So as you see, you have quite powerful tool to review the cost of your Azure subscription and Azure resources. So what else do you get there? Because what I showed you right now is how you can find what was happening in the past, but how you can react and manage costs for your Azure subscription using cost management. First of all, you can actually create budgets and alerts. You already seen in the portal budgets and alerts, but let's actually take them for a spin and let's see how they work in real scenario. So we have our Azure subscription and I see that the forecast is 60 euros. Let's imagine my budget, my spending should not exceed 50 euros a month. And if it exceeds, I want to react somehow. So the thing that you need to do, first of all, is either click here on a budget and hit create new budget, or more consistently on the left hand side, you have budget blade. In here, simply hit add. But remember one important thing, when you add a budget, you add it to the current scope. So remember to select the scope based on what you're doing. So either create a budget for entire management group, that means this budget will be done for all the subscription within this management group, or in which case I want to do it only for my one subscription. So I'm gonna select subscription and hit select. So right now I'm adding a budget only for this subscription. Remember about this because this is very important. If you're not gonna change the scope, you might have trouble finding your budgets later on. And now hit add. When you add a budget, you need to define a couple of things. For instance, of course, you need to define scope, and additionally you can filter a bit if you want to do it. But I don't want to do it right now, so I'm gonna remove that. Now you need to provide a name, so 50 euro cap. I want to be sure, alright, you need to provide more technical name in this case, so no spaces. Second of all, what is the reset of the budget? Of course, you can have monthly, quarterly, yearly. In this case, I want to use billing month. So I want to be sure that in none of the months I'm gonna exceed 50 euros. What's the expiration date? So how long is the budget running? And what's the budget amount? In my case, it's 50 euro. And as you see, if you go down, it will show you that if you go by the current forecast, most likely you're gonna exceed that budget anyway. But I want to create it anyway to show you what will happen when you do it. So let's hit next. Once you create a budget, you can actually set up alerts. So how do you want to react when this budget is reached? For instance, by typing 100% here. So as you see, actually Microsoft tells you that. So when the 50 euro spent is reached, what do you want to do? And to do something, you need to define action group because currently we have none. To do that, simply click Manage Action Groups and add an action group. In this case, I want to do send email. I want to use the same short name, maybe here something more specific, send email to owner. Short name is send email, and then select the subscription, select the resource group, because action group is a very small resource, so it needs to be saved. if you're gonna select the default resource group, it's gonna create a default activity log alerts resource group. In here, you need to add an action because as it says, it's action group, so it can contain multiple actions. For instance, send email action. And what's the action type? And this is actually pretty neat feature. Notice how many things you can actually do, because in this case, of course, I want to send an email, but notice that you can actually run Azure Automation Runbooks, so PowerShell script. So do something in PowerShell when a specific quota on the budget is reached. Maybe call Azure function, maybe email someone assigned in Azure management role, which is what we're gonna use. You can register a ticket in ITSM tool, you can call a logic app, or maybe a webhook. In this case, I want to email Azure Resource Manager owner, in which case it allows me to select who should it email. I want it to email for all the owners for this subscription, and hit OK. This way, I don't really have to type by hand, because if you would select email here by hand using this email, SMS, push, and voice option, you would have to add a specific email to this list, so maybe PDL distribution list. One of the cool options in this case is, of course, SMS option, so to get a text message if your quota is running high. Or even better, I love this option because this allows you, if you have Azure app on your mobile, if you select this option and type your email, you're gonna get a push notification on your phone whenever quota is reached. And of course, you can leave a voicemail if you want. As you see, you have quite a few options here, and those options are actually not related to the cost management service. This is a feature of Azure Monitor, a wider monitoring service in Azure to monitor your application and infrastructure. So I'm gonna hit OK, which in this case creates that resource group, creates as this small resource for action group. And once it's done, it's gonna allow you to select this. And as you see, we can now select send email to owner action group. Let's close that. Let's close this panel and let's go back to budget. So in budget, in alerts, when 100% is reached, please send an email to owner. If you want, you can of course maybe do something like this. When 70%, 75% of the budget is done, also send email to an owner. One of the cool features of this percentage budget is that, for instance, when 100% is reached, maybe call a logic app that will do something, right? So you can do things like that. Maybe call a logic app that will stop this virtual machine if I'm gonna exceed my quota. And of course, then you can simply click create. Before we click it, notice that it added on this diagram the thresholds, and those are the thresholds that we just defined, 100, 75, and 50. And as you see, based on that, you know that almost always you will reach this quota, so almost every month gonna get those alerts. Let's hit create. And after a couple of seconds, a budget will be created and you will be able to use it. This is the panel where you can review the current budgets, remember, for the current scope. And in here, you're gonna see start date, end date, what is the budget, what is the evaluated spend, and what is the progress. So you can very quickly review it. But one additional cool feature is that if you go to cost analysis and review the current month, it will show you also the budget. So give it a couple of seconds to load. Since we created our budget on monthly basis, let's change this view to current month. And after this chart will now load, you will see new information. The new information on this chart will be presented and show you the current budget, and based on estimates, what's the current overusage that you will incur during this month above the budget, which in my opinion is pretty cool. So what additional features do you have here? For instance, you also have tags. If you go to Azure and start applying resource group tags, for instance, by going to your Azure resource group, any kind of Azure resource group, there's always a tags section here. If you're gonna start applying some tags like, I don't know, name of the department, then you can do analysis based on that. And then you can use those in all of those charts in Azure Cost Management, which is pretty cool feature. So what else do you have here? Additionally, you have an option for offline analysis. So if you use Azure Cost Management and you still feel like there's not enough features for you to do full drill-down analysis or maybe BI reporting for your organization, then you have additional options. For instance, you have REST API, so you can connect directly to two usage APIs. For instance, usage details, which gives you full extract of all the data from the usage API, or maybe query API to get some specific parts of the usage. But of course, not everyone wants to use REST API because it's not as easy and straightforward if you've never done it before. If you do it, it's quite easy. You just need a service principal, proper privileges, and you're ready to go. So what additionally you have automated export. So you can configure automated export in Azure Portal by going to Cost Management service. Inside of Cost Management, you're gonna find an export in the settings section. You can hit on it. Again, remember about the scope, hit add. And in here, you can already configure new exports. One thing that you need to do before you can do it, you need to go to your subscription. You need to select your current subscription that you're doing the export for, and you need to navigate to resource providers here and just type Microsoft.cost to get the resource provider for cost management. Just make sure that the cost management exports is activated. Otherwise, you're gonna get an error during the export configuration. So let's go back to cost management. Let's hit on cost management, go back to exports, and let's add a new export. Let's call it demo export. Let's select the export type to daily. Of course, you can do weekly or you can do some custom based on time ranges. I want daily. Let's hit next. And in this panel, you need to select a storage account, because what this export functionality does, it will drop a CSV file into an Azure Blob storage. So you need to select one existing or create a new one. So let's create a new one. Let's select resource group. In this case, I'm gonna select resource group called demo and provide account name. So I'm gonna call it AM demo ACM1. And I'm gonna select location, North Europe, which is the closest to me, container called demo, and directory path will be called billing exports. Hit next, review all the data, and hit create. Notice that the information there is that the first export will be available in 4 hours time. After a couple of seconds, export was created. We now have demo export scheduled, and this will be done every day. And every day you're gonna get a new CSV into that storage account, which you can consume from any kind of tool that you need. If you don't want to wait a couple of hours, simply click on this context menu and select Run Now to perform the extract right at this very time, so you can quickly review the results. And once you do it, you can actually go back to Azure Portal, to your newly created demo resource group, to the storage account, review the container called demo, and inside of the demo, you're gonna find billing export folder. Inside of it, you're gonna find a drill down up to the CSV containing your billing information. If you're gonna hit edit, you're gonna find the full information that you see in Azure Portal. This is so detailed per day, per service, per meter, and meter category that you can actually do your own analysis based on your needs. And this is pretty fantastic because now from Power BI, it's very easy to connect to blob storage and pull this information and do some cool analysis yourself. But we're not done. Besides this, you have support for RBAC roles. So if someone has an owner, contributor, or a reader access on the resource group, they can review cost management details for those particular resource groups or subscriptions. Additionally, if you don't want to give them such a high privileges, there are two built-in roles called Cost Management Contributor and Cost Management Reader, allowing them to only see and manage billing information, which is pretty cool. Additional features that you get using Cost Management Service are, for instance, AWS integration. So you can add your AWS billing information to cost management, so you would have one service to get full cost visibility on both clouds. Additionally, you can trigger based on alerts. As you've seen, you can trigger webhooks, logic apps, runbooks, etc. So you can do automation around billing costs of your subscriptions. And Azure Advisor service will also provide recommendation based on cost management data. For instance, it will recommend you to scale down your virtual machine if it will notice that the usage is small and you're overpaying for your virtual machines, which is another pretty cool feature of Azure Cost Management. And lastly, when it comes to support, most current subscriptions and most agreements are supporting cost management service, whenever it's enterprise agreement, pay-as-you-go, government subscriptions, customer agreement options, etc., etc. But with all those cool features, there's always some watchouts. So let's talk about watchouts. First of all, remember that forecast requires at least 10 days of data, so you need to have some usage in order for Azure to provide a forecast. Additionally, cost data is only visible after 8 to 12 hours. So if you want to react faster to your billings, you're gonna need to craft something custom. Otherwise, if you're fine with 8 to 12 hours on the billing delay, you're good to go. Also remember that up to 48 hours, Microsoft has ability to change the billings to do some adjustment if it calculated your costs incorrectly. So maybe not do financial reporting for 8 hours delay, but some cool cost analysis and cool automations, it's good to go. Additionally, most Azure resources, especially those around Azure Resource Manager, support tags. So use those tags to your advantage, but definitely check documentation because not all tags are supported in Azure Cost Management. After I checked the documentation, most Azure resources that supported tags were visible in Azure Cost Management, besides very few, like 2 or 3 that I found, were not supported in Cost Management. And one important note when it comes to tags is that when you apply a tag to a resource, remember that it will only get reported after that tag is applied. It doesn't work retroactively. So if you're gonna apply it on the May 4th, only since then, Cost Management Service will be reporting and showing that tag and the costs associated with it. And lately, reservations were also included in Azure Cost Management. So if you're gonna purchase a big reservation, it's gonna highly impact what you're gonna see in Cost Management. In which case, it's good to change from actual to amortized views and then do analysis like this. This will actually spread the cost of the reservation over the period that the reservation is purchased for, which is good for your automations, especially, and alerts. And lastly, if you're using Cloudyn and you're wondering, should I use Cloudyn? It's an old tool and it will be deprecated by the end of 2020. So you should definitely plan on moving away from Cloudyn to Azure Cost Management as soon as possible. After all of that, I hope you see that Azure Cost Management is a very simple service on the surface, but it allows you to extend its functionalities and provide additional benefits to your organization. Definitely check the documentation on what else can it do, what other features does it hide, and definitely keep track of what Microsoft releases because there's gonna be plenty of additional updates for Cost Management service. For today, that's it. If you like the video, hit thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And definitely, see you next time.